Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom.
Hey, welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
Chris Carter is out today. He's doing his yearly CMN Children's Miracle Network Radiothon. So, hey, if you're in the donating mood, look him up. You can just Google it, find it out.
Every year they raise literally hundreds of thousands of dollars for Children's Miracle Network, and it is just it's a passion of Chris's and his partners that work with him on that event, and they go all in on this thing. When Chris is preparing for that, he talks about just what an emotional roller coaster it is, because throughout the event, of course they're fundraising, but they're also talking about the stories of the families and the children that are affected by different childhood diseases that are, it's hard. And they go through success stories, and they go through stories that don't end with a success of a healing, but they've been able to help a family through a very tragic or tough situation. So the Children's Miracle Network and the work that they do, Russ, do you remember? I don't know the number of the total dollars they've raised since they started doing this over at the radio station at KTWB.
I don't know that total number, but I asked it last year to Chris, and I know all of us got that wide-eyed look like, are you kidding me? That is a lot of money.
Yeah, and he's won a national award for his work on that. I know he's been down and been across the big stage in Florida for awards for the just the quality and quantity of work that they've done for this event. So we'll give him a pass today, and we'll struggle through. Russ has got himself sitting there doing dual duty, and we'll struggle through and make this all work without him. I got up this morning to do our recording. I'm like, where's Chris? And I'm like, oh, that's right. And Russ reminded me, and I was preoccupied with my own agenda and how quickly you forget about something that's so important.
Sometimes I think maybe I should had less coffee or something this morning because you got to reach over and hover over the buttons there, and your hands are a little shaky. And you're like,
You'll get her done. You designed the whole thing, so who better to push the buttons than you?
We'll get it. Under the Hood is brought to you by Autotempest.com. That is our studio sponsor. They've got all the cars in one search, and this is the time of the year that maybe you're thinking about going out and getting a car, or you need one for a loved one or yourself or grandma. I don't know who. Somebody always seems to need a car, and it's every day, every single day in our shop. We're telling people, go to Autotempest.com. That is where you can find a car. And we just had one yesterday that was searching for a car, and they had looked and looked and looked and looked, but they hadn't gone to Autotempest.com. They must not be a regular listener to the show. And I'm like, well, why not? You come in here all the time. We're fixing your car. But they ended up they were driving down one of the streets in our town, one of the busier streets, and somebody pulled out of the side. They were in the two right lanes, headed down on a crowded road, and somebody decided they wanted to shoot out of a driveway at a gas station and go across both lanes and get into the turn lane, which it's illegal, folks. You know that.
Yep.
So they did that, and of course the person that got hit had the opportunity. They were in two lanes. The light was green. They were moving forward, so they closed into that gap, and the person was also on their phone. So as they were coming across and looking down at their phone, they ran right into the back corner and bent the wheel just enough that it pulled on the frame, and there was enough rust on the frame that they totaled the car. So now they've got this emergency. We have to get a car.
This is not a good time to have a car emergency because the inventories are low around the country. So you need a resource like Autotempest.com to be able to bring all that together in one place. Like I said, all the cars, one search, and that's what works the best. And we recently watched an episode of Car Trek, who Autotempest.com sponsors. And just to give you an idea, the Autotempest gave each one of the hosts of Car Trek $3,000
find their original car.
To find the original car that they first got driving in.
Exact model.
Yeah,
of it.
and so that was very interesting, but they used Autotempest.com to track down these odd and unique vehicles that they had when they were younger. So if they can do that, we know you can use it to get your regular car that you're looking for.
And they were able to do it for $3,000.
Yeah. We didn't see all the behind-the-scenes haggling on the purchase. That would have been fun to see, too. But
either way, they got it done.
They got her done.
Hey, we got a call coming in from Scott. Hey, Scott in Texas, how you doing?
Doing good.
You got a Camry, a 2000 Camry?
Yeah. I paid $500 for it about a year ago,
Sweet.
and I've been driving. It's got 276,000 miles on it.
All right.
As far as I know, everything's still pretty much original on the car, but I've been having one plaguing issue with it. So the check engine light's been on since I bought the car, and it's what is that thing called? It is the EGR insufficient flow code.
Sure.
I forget what exact code that is. But what I did was I went and pulled the EGR valve off, thinking the tube was clogged up, and well, it wasn't clogged up. It was flowing just fine, and kind of at a loss on that one.
Well, when you pull that off, if you've got a flow coming from the exhaust up to the valve of a hot exhaust gas, which is what you checked, right?
Yes.
How about the intake side, the side with the suction going to the intake? Did you check that to see if there's vacuum there? Because if you pull the valve off and you start the car and you've got hot exhaust gases, it should run horribly because you'll have a giant intake leak there. If it didn't run bad,
Yeah,
it did vacuum.
that I do. I'm sorry?
It had good vacuum on it?
It did.
Okay. That is one thing that can cause the code. If it had a low vacuum there, it could give you a code. The other thing that can give you a code is problems with other sensors on the engine. The EGR sensors play a huge role in that system as well. They look for a change in the air-fuel ratio when the valve is open, because you're putting in burned exhaust and burned fuel, burned oxygen. Everything's burned that's going through there, so it's going to change your readings. So that can cause that as well. It might be, though, that you have a slight restriction in the intake manifold where you're not getting full vacuum on it, but you are getting some, and that's why you're getting the code. Because even a minor restriction, when those cars had lower mileage on them, like 150, it was common to see them come in with carbon buildup.
It'd be kind of fun to take one of our partners, Justice Brothers, their emission system cleaner, and suck
Run
that
it
through the vacuum ports once and just see what would happen.
And we'd even put, when we've done it in our own shop, we have pulled that EGR valve off, blocked off the exhaust side of it, and run that cleaner through the suction side of that EGR to clean out the EGR passage.
Let's be real here. We're talking about a car you paid $500 for. So
yeah, it's not going to hurt.
You got to expect a few warts.
Yeah.
If that's the worst one you got and it's still running.
I've put almost 20,000 trouble-free miles on this car. The worst thing that happened to it was the rear struts completely blew out. I mean, I had no suspension in the back of the car.
Did it go low? Did it go lowrider on you, or did it bounce? Was it just completely bottomed out?
Oh, it was like on a waterbed.
Oh my!
That's how bad it was.
My wife and I were just talking about waterbeds the other night. What would you think? We were just talking about that because I don't know where we were at, and somebody talked about a foot warmer in their bed that they didn't get that option on their bed. These high class beds everybody's getting, and my wife said, she goes, that's what I miss about the waterbed was the heat. You could have that heating element on, and you could get in there, and it was always warm and cozy.
It's too hot for me.
Yeah, but do you think waterbeds will ever come back?
No, definitely not.
You don't?
No.
I mean, everything else is coming back. Producer Doug, do you think they'll ever come back?
No.
He says no.
Oh, boy.
I was growing up, my cousins always had waterbeds.
My daughter wants a camera for Christmas that actually has film in it. She's 14 years old.
They have those.
And she wants a little camera with film in it. So why can't a waterbed come back if the kids want film camera back?
I don't know. Well, Scott, thanks for giving us a call.
I was actually going to ask one other.
Oh, go ahead.
Now, when I bought the car, the reason I bought the car so cheap was actually it had a bad misfire. They advertised it as saying the car wouldn't stay running.
Okay.
What it turned out to be was somebody who did a tune-up on it put two of the plug wires backwards, so it was running on two cylinders.
Oh, lucky
Do you think that Could that have any effect on the EGR system, you think?
Oh, yeah.
Or?
That could carbon up that thing super fast because it's going to run with a misfire and too much fuel in there, and then it's going to turn to carbon and solidify. So that might help with a cleaning.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering.
Well, right now,
Other
though,
than that, like I said,
hang up this call and determine that you are the winner.
Yeah.
Let's just say it out loud, guys. He got a $500 car, and he's driven it 20,000 miles, and he's still working on a minor issue in the grand scheme of things for what he's dealing with. So I think you win on this one, even if you have to spend $100. You win.
I mean, it has everything.
All right. Well, take care, Scott. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, you can call the show at 866-594-4150, 866-594-4150, and we're doing the Under the Hood Show live here from the Under the Hood Show studios here.
We'll be right back in just a couple of minutes.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us under the hood, 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. We've got a couple callers lined up here. You can call us too. We want to talk to you. We really do. Let's go to Michael in Tucson. Michael?
Hey,
How
good
you
morning.
doing?
Thanks for taking the call. And I wish I was in Tucson. I'm in South Dakota, so hey, it's what it is.
Michael with a Tucson.
You know what? That sounds more fun, Michael in Tucson, but Michael with a Tucson.
That's all right. Chris would have nailed that one. He's probably thinking, no, I know that.
Well,
guy.
if this is the case, the next person up on our caller board is from Lake Tahoe.
Well, that's the worst. What the heck?
We're getting quite a lineup this morning. Well, what can we help you with your Tucson, Michael?
Well, the Tucson, it's a 2017. I'll give you a little descriptive on it. It's a four-cylinder. It's got about 85,000 miles on it. The transmission has been replaced recently. The catalytic converter has been replaced recently. The car's running great. But there's been a problem, and it seems to be a continuing nature. And I guess I'd like to ask a question, and it's about the oil.
Okay.
It's mostly road miles. There's no visible leaks underneath the car. There doesn't seem to be any dripping or leaking or anything. But the thing burns oil. By 3,000 miles, it seems like it sucks up a couple quarts of oil, and which is quite a bit because that's roughly about 50% of the oil capacity. Any thoughts on that?
Oh,
well, they're not good thoughts.
No, they're not good thoughts.
But I do have to ask you. I got to think about this for a second because the Hyundai Kia lineups have got a lot of different engine choices, but yet they have a lot the same. Is that Tucson have the turbo engine in it, or is it the non-turbo?
The non-turbo.
Okay, I was hoping it was a turbo because then we could maybe look at the turbo side of things to see if maybe a seal was out or if it was pulling oil through the turbo and burning it. Because you can burn oil on these modern cars. We talk about this on the show a fair amount. You can burn a fair amount of oil on these modern vehicles and never see a sign of it because they've got this fiery furnace called a catalytic converter on the backside of the engine if it hasn't been stolen yet. And that catalytic converter is back there at 1,000 degrees when it's working properly. And it'll literally incinerate until it wears out because it's getting too much oil dumped in it over time. It'll incinerate that oil so hot and so fast you don't ever see the shooting of the blues out the tailpipe like you used to on, think of the classic vehicle days when you'd see people driving down the road just shooting the blues out the tailpipe. So
right, and ironically, you say that. Let me go back to the catalytic converter because the thing was plugged, and it had oil in it. It had oil residue in it. Let's put it that way. A significant amount where it was actually plugging the converter. So perhaps there's something there that I'm not aware of, but that would make sense actually.
I don't want to tell you what I have to tell you, but I think that you've got a problem with the internals of that engine, and I would talk with your dealer.
Yes.
Because there is a number of these vehicles that have fallen under certain campaigns. I don't remember which models and which years, but if you happen to get a Hyundai or a Kia with some oil burning or another problem they'll get is some engine knocking noise. Make sure you get a hold of your dealer, especially if you're under 100,000 miles. Under 100,000 is a number that I use, I think, pretty safely, because when they have had
Right.
extended campaigns, they've extended the warranties out time and miles on a lot of them.
Some of them are 5 years, so do it quickly.
Yeah, so I think that I would check in on that. And
Got
the
it.
fact that they were the converters and the transmission done under factory warranty?
They were not. They both were out of the factory warranty. It was 60,000 miles for the transmission, and it was 80,000 miles for the conversion. They just missed it. So,
And on the
4,000
converters, you might, I don't know, I don't want to be Dennis the Menace here, but there are times that catalytic converter falls under the emissions warranty,
8 years, 80,000
which
miles.
is longer than the factory warranty by federal law. And so if someone missed that, if that was supposed to be covered that way, you might be able to get reimbursed.
They won't cover it if it's got oil in it.
That's what I was going to
They
say.
do ask that question.
But it does put a marker on the wall of when you potentially started having an oil problem, because
oh, good idea.
you actually had oil residue in there when it was replaced, and hopefully that was noted and everybody knows about it. Maybe that would be an opportunity if there is a campaign of some sort, because once again, the good news doesn't come at the end of this phone call, because those engines have gotten to be very expensive, even for
Right.
us in selling the recycled out of the wrecked vehicles that we dismantle at our certified auto recycling facility. A lot of those Hyundai Kia motors, we're seeing used engines that are, well, just this morning I quoted one for a Santa Fe to a friend of mine up in St. Cloud, Minnesota, and we happened to have one that came out of a government crash test vehicle with only 125 miles on it. But the market price on that particular motor, that was a 3.3, was like $6,500 for that engine. Now, it's just the market has got high supply and demand issues like everything, and we're all fighting to buy these vehicles at the salvage auctions, and the prices are just going up and up like a lot of things. So I would check into, hopefully you could dial it back and they find like a PCV issue or something, because we're seeing that on a few modern vehicles where the integrated crankcase vents are getting clogged, and they're pulling oil in through that system and burning it. But if they check all those externals, you don't have a turbo, then you got to start looking inside, and that's a lot of oil. So I'm not.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't like the sounds of it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys' expertise stuff. At least it gives you an opportunity to take a look at it without trying to play doctor, go to Google and try to figure it out. So thank you for your time.
And that's our goal here with the show, is we want to make our hoodies a good, as we call it, consumers of the automobile. We want to be able to help you ask good questions. Can't always fix it over the radio, but we can sure help you get in a position to have a better experience, because you're asking the right questions and getting to the heart of the matter quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. You guys have done a great job. You have a great show. Just listening to you guys, the tidbits of information that come across there is just phenomenal. So thank you very much. I'm sure a lot of people greatly appreciate it. I know I do.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Michael.
You bet. Bye.
This has become the oil system issues with cars has become a pretty big thing here lately. I'd say the last 4 years it's really been snowballing, and we're seeing more and more engines come in with failures. The Chevy Equinox is one that's really on our radar. I know our engine rebuilders are saying that's like their number one selling replacement.
2.4 Equinox Terrain.
And Captiva 4 years ago, they were like non-existent for us, which like, sure, how many do you want? We got lots of them to sell, but not any longer. It's they're out there. The 3.6 Chevrolet, these small little turbo engines, there's definitely some things coming up on these that we need to be aware of. But like you said, Shannon, we got to you got to be aware and ask the manufacturers, ask your dealership, because they're in touch with the manufacturer every day, and we've got a lot of campaigns available out there to save these engines, save you the money, because some of these engines, like you said, Shannon, used, you could be anywhere from $3,500 to $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 to put a used engine in, and a reman is more than that. And then getting the parts is the other thing too. It's can we get those things? That's going to be the hard thing. So you just never know what's what's available. We got a couple calls we're going to come back to right after the break, and we will see you in just a second.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
Welcome back to Under the Hood, everybody. 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood show. Let's pick up another call here. We got Kurt, who is not in Lake Tahoe, but Kurt, who has a 2007 Chevrolet Tahoe. How you doing, Kurt?
I'm doing all right. How you guys doing?
This is a great day. We're making it. Chris isn't here, and you can tell we're not on our game when all
we're not
three
as
of us.
smooth without the maestro behind the keyboard.
We can't answer the.
You guys
call.
don't have that. You don't have that middleman there.
No, but we can't answer the calls accurately on time. But boy, getting to them that can get a little confusing.
Sorry, you had to
sometimes.
wait there, Kurt. How can we help you?
I got a question. My cluster on there. I got my speedometer works, tachometer works, all the other gauges except for my odometer and my the gears. I'm sure I need a new cluster. There's no fix to that.
The fix is replacing the unit. A few people chose to try to do them themselves at home by putting stepper motors and stuff in. There's some parts you can buy online.
Well, but in this particular one in the 07, you're talking about the digital display of the miles and the drive park neutral stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, and
that's it.
If you buy those stepper motors and things to replace the motors that are out, you can also do some soldering of some certain joints in the back and possibly get that to come back. But in other cases, you can't. Those units are just out. The IC chip is out, and they can't be fixed. But because of the low price, our partner Dorman Products at dormanproducts.com carries that part. You can order it online, replace yours. You send your old one back as a core. For me, it's a no-brainer because I would rather do that than spend the time to try to solder everything. But there's do-it-yourselfers that really want to attempt that. Doesn't always work, but if it does, hey, you saved a little money. But anywhere from, depending on the cluster and the model of the vehicle, anywhere from $186 to $300 typically for a completely remanufactured unit with the correct miles.
Back to your miles and everything else, but Russ, I do have to look at you. Go ahead.
So is there a computer in there to find out how many miles you got? If you want to sell your car, they always, how many miles you got on it? Or do you just guess, or how do you do that?
How long have you been running it since you knew what the actual mileage was?
I'd say 2 years.
Okay, that's going to be a problem. Yeah. Now here's where it's going to be a problem. They can pull out the mileage from yours when it arrives at the rebuilding facility, but they're not going to have communication with you to tell you what that is. But you have to sign an odometer statement, and if you sign the statement and it says 100,000 miles, and they get the unit and it has 200,000 miles or even 150, more than likely, unless there's some kind of audit done by the government, which I don't know if it's ever happened yet, you're not going to hear a word about it. But if a person buys the car and there's some kind of legal dispute and it has to do with the mileage, and they go back to the company, these rebuilders, and they say, we're looking for this VIN number, what mileage was on it, and they find out that information and you've signed that statement, there's trouble. So
the federal odometer laws, they don't take lightly. What I would do is not actual miles.
So why wouldn't when I send it in, they can actually get the actual miles, or is it from when it quit? Is that when
they should be able to get it. As long as the computer chip is still working in the unit, they should be able to read the miles, but they don't provide that service. There are a few companies that do rebuilding of speedometers only. They're small, where they're doing small batches of, maybe 20, 30 a month of them. You can find those online, and they'll advertise that they will attempt to retrieve the mileage if the computer is still working in the unit and this display is just dead. You can send them to them prepaid. They'll check it out, and if it can be retrieved, they can program the exact mileage, certify it, and send it back to you. That would be one option. Now, you're getting an '07 Tahoe, it is getting old enough that if you think you're going to keep this thing another 3 or 4 years, mileage probably isn't going to matter too much as long as you can, look somebody in the eye and they believe that you say, well, I put a speedometer in this thing. I'm pretty sure it has about this many miles. And if they look at the body, if it's over 150,000 and they go, it's in pretty good shape, anywhere over 150, it's just up to the person buying the vehicle of what they want to spend.
I know that the good friend of mine that listens to
So
this
is it different if you try to trade it in like to a dealership? I suppose then that's a different thing.
I was just going to say here, Kurt, let's get into reality on this deal just a little bit on why I think we need to look at this. How many miles do you think are on it?
It's in really good shape. I'm guessing there's probably 120,000 miles on it.
Okay, so
that might be even high because I don't drive it a lot.
In my opinion, with 120,000 miles on it, you are in definitely the low mileage category for that age of vehicle. It would be good to keep it as accurate as possible. If this thing had 180, 90,000, it was close to 200,000 miles, then I'm not as concerned about this because the value is going to be what the value is. Once the miles get so high, then it's going to be graded on the condition of the vehicle and how it runs more so than 200,000 miles. But if you're that miles, you're going to want to do it. So there are a couple things just to think about before we get off the call here. What happens, there's a solder joint on the back of that cluster that goes bad. And that solder joint's particular for the display in that area. There's a number of people online that have YouTube tutorials on how to open that thing up, break it up. I was kind of surprised when Russ said earlier that he wouldn't dig into it because here's a guy that put his headlights in the oven at one time to get the lenses off of them to try to rebuild his headlights. And so,
times have changed.
So I just want to say that I think I want to throw a flag on that comment because I know him. But there's people, though, showing what you can do and exactly what to do to fix that yourself if you're that kind of person to dig into something.
If you're a how-to guy, look at YouTube, see if you can, at the very minimum, solder that joint and get your mileage back so you can give a true statement of your mileage.
And also, for anybody that's doing this, make sure you've got a good battery. Check your battery, make sure that it's got, get a computerized tester on it. Check all your body grounds, your dash harness grounds, and make sure that's all solid because there's a number of people I've talked to that have found that either a battery issue or a grounding issue, and they weren't getting the right supply voltage into that cluster. And because of a little bit of weakness in a solder joint, it couldn't quite get through to that. So they did one person I know did a new battery, and they tightened up a few grounds, and everything came back. And so don't rule that out either.
I know you need to get to another call, but just real quick for the reverse drive, if I'm in the garage and it's dark, I can see that a little bit. I don't know if that makes any difference or not. Maybe. You're saying, it might be the solder thing or whatever.
That's probably solder joint if that's the case.
You bet. And hopefully maybe you could see enough of it to see your miles.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Kurt.
Yeah, right. All right. Thank you, guys.
You bet. All right. We got a hoodie winner. Hey, Ken Feria from Pueblo, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Pueblo, Colorado. Congratulations from all of us here under the hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute. If you're looking to get a good, solid, honest career in automotive, but you're kind of nervous about how you're going to get trained, Universal Technical Institute at uti.edu, they can get you trained. They've got people working right with the factory to learn how to work on today's vehicles. So visit them today. They've got campuses across the United States. uti.edu.
Pueblo, Colorado, our good friends out there from Dario Auto and Truck Parts. And I know Nick and Greg and the whole crew out there, they're good friends of ours. I just saw them at our national convention, and they're going through a couple things with a family member, and I offer my prayers and a big hug to them. So just good time to say hello to our friends out there in Pueblo.
Laith Grandgard just wrote in on our YouTube feed, and he says, I got the hoodie on, the snow shovel ready. Have a great show.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
In our local market, they're predicting our first snowstorm coming up here.
In Minneapolis, and it's just rolling through. We're going to go to the phones again to Bob with a 2018 GMC truck. How you doing, Bob?
Just great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your show.
Well, you're very welcome.
I have a question. I'm just new to the GMC market. I bought a 2018 GMC Sierra 1500 with 39,000 miles on it. And I hear horror stories about that AFM module going bad. And Just wondering, do you delete it? What do you do?
I have a 2017 and friends that have got the 15, 16, 17, 18s. And in my group of people that I know, nobody's had a problem. And in that model year. Now, the next generation up, we're starting to hear some signals that there could be issues to pay attention to.
We're hearing horrible news.
And so we're trying to pay attention to that. It hasn't, hit real hard in our market as far as the replacements that we're selling or anything, but the requests and the curiosity are starting to peak. And but as far as that model of truck goes, there is a bunch of those on the road, and they're going fine. As far as deleting that, we do not recommend it.
And it doesn't seem to be helping a lot. What's happening is that in a lot of those, the springs and the lifters, the little lock pins are coming apart, and it doesn't matter whether the AFM is working or not. Some people thought, well, I'll delete it, and I never had a problem. Maybe they're one of the people that wouldn't have had a problem if they didn't delete it. Seems to be prevalent either way.
So it's something to pay attention to. If you start hearing any different upper end noise right away.
Or a check engine light.
Yeah, check engine light. Start getting ready to just do a set of lifters and a top end before it breaks.
Yeah, if the metal gets in the system, it's very bad.
I don't want to sound dire though. Like I said, we've got plenty of people we know that have these trucks and they're going just fine.
Basically, you have that truck, Shannon.
Yeah,
you have the same engine.
We're hearing some reports though starting to trickle in from our engine rebuilders and things like that we're paying attention to, but I wouldn't be losing sleep over it at all. And it sounds like you got a baby. 39,000 miles in this market. You probably paid a lot of money for that truck, didn't you?
Yeah, probably more than I wanted. But I also sold my other truck.
Yeah, and you sold your other truck at the top of the market, too. That's what a lot of people said. Look what I got for my truck. And then I look at them, I said, what'd you have to pay for the replacement? Yeah, you got about the same deal as you would have 5 years ago. The net was about the same. Yeah. But it's kind of crazy what's going on right there. But one thing on that truck that just to pay attention to is that if you ever feel any weird shuddering or anything from the transmission. Now, I don't know with the 5.3, because I think that might you got a 6-speed automatic in that, or is that an 8-speed automatic in yours?
My brother had this issue with the
6-speed.
He's got a 6-speed in his, though.
Oh.
I think that they made that package with 8-speed later. They've had that available, the 5.3 and the 8-speed. Otherwise, you could only get the 8-speed behind the 6.2. And they had some issues with the fluid that they put in from the factory and the ones with the 6.2s in them. And I experienced that. And it was a matter of letting the dealer do a process of fluid flushing and recalibration, and they smoothed out a little shudder that almost felt like you're running over rumble strips.
Yeah.
It was pretty common on a lot of Denali's and Escalades and pickups with the 6.2 liter in them. So I don't want to sit here and sound like this thing is horrible, because there's a ton of these trucks out there in the market, and they're working great. But it is something to pay attention to if you start hearing any top-end lifter noise. And don't get confused, though, because the fuel injectors are a little bit noisy in those.
Tick, 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 tick.
So you'll hear that as normal. But if you hear something different, stop. But I think you'll be all right.
How about extended warranty?
If you've got the money to replace this engine or do some major repairs on it, if it happens, and you can, you want to take that gamble, take that risk, I'd save the money. But if it's something that
set of lifters here, let's just do the math. Set of lifters installed. If you take it somewhere, you're going to spend probably $3,000, $4,000.
$3 to $4 grand.
Okay, so if that's what they had to do,
and
if you catch it early, if that's what you need, if somebody can
and the
do
warranties are running about that right now.
Right. So what we've told people a lot of times, if you are looking at an extended warranty and you think you can afford the extra payment on the extended warranty, maybe take that extended warranty money and just stuff it away into an account somewhere and just not touch it. Nothing breaks, you don't spend the money, that's your down payment money for your next vehicle, or whatever it might happen to be. Something breaks, you've got your own kitty of money, and you're not giving money away to a warranty company. Now, some of the warranty companies have gotten better about how they handle this, where if you don't have a claim, they'll give you back a certain amount of residual, that sort of thing. So you really want to understand what the warranty company's operations are and what their ratings are, how long they've been around, because warranty companies can be very, very good for people, but we've seen some situations where the warranty companies were not a high-rated warranty company, or the expense of that warranty, in our opinion, far outweighed the cost of just saving a little bit of money and taking your chances. But if you're glued to your payment and you're glued to your budget and don't have any extra, and you finagle that all into your one payment, it makes sense for a lot of people. But that's cutting it pretty close. Does that make sense?
Thank you very much, guys. Really
You bet.
appreciate the information.
Thanks, Bob. Take care. Oh,
Be sure to visit our website for news.
the stuff that we go through on cars, it just drives us nuts. But
Sometimes it does.
that's the way a cookie crumbles, unfortunately. We'll be right back in just a second.
Are feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show, 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show.
Well, you know what? For all the listeners out there that have C8 Corvettes,
I'm right with you. I've read about it. I'm not, and all the listeners. There's more than you think, but I'm not one of them.
which one are you reading about here?
I was reading about the engine in the Corvette.
Oh.
That's all that caught my eye.
Oh, no. I was reading here about
in the Z06.
No, not the flat plane crank C06 motor. That's a work of art there. But no, my mom had sent me a note that she got from the Corvette Club, and they got a GM Bolton out, and this seems to go hand in hand. But if you have a new C8 Corvette and you have an aftermarket radar detector, which I think they would all be aftermarket. I don't think they make a factory radar detector.
Exactly.
It ruined the glass in the door mirror. The voltage was too high in the detector, and it melted the defroster in the mirror. And so if you're going to be using, apparently there's certain radar detectors that draw enough resistance, and my guess must be is that circuit is shared or something, and they have to install a jumper harness to be able to do that. And so they've got a Bolton number here, 21NA251, and that is something that apparently they've had somebody burn down their heating element in their door mirror using an aftermarket radar detector. Does that make any sense to you?
No, because you're using the accessory circuit on, I assume, on the console to plug that radar detector into. And if you're plugging that into there, wouldn't it do the same thing with a phone with a high amp? A charger?
It does. I didn't dig into it anymore.
When I get back to the shop, I'm digging into that.
Because that just sounded interesting, though. But their fix is to add a jumper harness. So usually when you add a jumper harness, you're sharing power with another circuit, or you're bringing more amperage or circuit capability.
I'm currently looking for a way to get switch power on my Yukon, and they've taken out the accessory ports and they put in USB-C connectors. So it's kind of the same trick. And I understand, because there's a lot of circuits that, I understand the electronics. It's like, nope, can't use that one. It's 5 amps. I don't want to burn something up. So
maybe it's a situation where it's a hardwired radar detector. 'Cause I know like Escort and those different brands, they do make ones that are
I'm gonna look into
integrated
it
into that. But that was an interesting tidbit.
We got enough customers that have those kind of performance cars and Berkeley One Classics people that, so it'll be interesting to find out exactly.
I wonder how the insurance company would go and say, my car had a fire because my radar detector burned it up.
No racing. All right, let's go to the phones. Talk to Tom in Minnesota with a 2012 Terrain. How you doing, Tom?
Pretty good, thank you.
What's up with the Terrain?
Well, it's my daughter's car, and it's kind of stumped a few people that looked at it. But going down the road, the dash cluster and the dash lights will flash off and on, but it also flashes the headlights. So, obviously when you're going down the road at night, that starts to occur. It gets your attention real fast. But we've taken it in. We've checked the battery. The battery checks good. Its battery, in fact, is probably less than a year old. Found that there was probably a little bit too high a voltage at the alternator. So we replaced the alternator, really not knowing for sure where to go. Replaced the alternator, couldn't get the problem to repeat itself. Went down the road after about 20, 25 miles, it started doing it again. So I really don't know. We've checked the grounds. I've had a reputable shop and a gentleman that I know very well check everything, and we just can't put our finger on it. We can't find anything that's taking care of the problem.
If it is, if it's overcharging like that and the lights are pulsation from them, that's controlled by the engine computer. It's going to manage that voltage output. So if you've already replaced the alternator and you've checked all the grounds, so the engine block is well grounded to the battery, and the body of the vehicle, that has to be well grounded as well. If it's not, if you've got a weak body ground, heavy corrosion there or something and creating resistance, that will cause it as well, because the computer is monitoring the body signal to see what the voltage is and going from there. So first, you've done the alternator. If it's the exact same problem, yes, you could have another alternator. We've put a couple of those on in a row in the past. It can happen. It's pretty rare, but it can happen. Then we are going to use a multimeter, and we're going to check the pulse width modulation at the alternator. There's a wire there that's basically the control wire, and we're going to make sure that that reads what the computer is telling it to read and that signal is accurate. I got a feeling you're going to find a problem in the control circuit, either the wire itself, which we found breaks in that wire before, our techs have found those, or the computer is failing in that. And either one shouldn't be super hard to fix.
Will that overcharge situation cause it to pulse the lights off?
No, they're not going off. They're just going brighter and dimmer, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And oddly enough, we thought we're making some progress by the position of the fan and or vent. If we take everything down to the floor, the problem would go away. Well, it's my daughter's car, so of course you're asking what else do you have plugged in? But no, it didn't. It came right back.
I'm thinking if you're able to change some settings inside, like moving into the floor, and there was a change and that it went away, it's very possible you have a weak body ground. You might want to just add another one just to test it, go from the negative terminal of the battery to the body, like to a fender up front, where you'll see some areas where there's some clean
solid metal you can get to.
That's bolted on, and just give that a shot and see if that changes it, because we found that's fixed a lot of things. Does that answer your question, Tom?
Sure does.
All right.
Sure does.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
From Minnesota, I want to make sure and
Bye-bye.
give a shout out also. We had a visitor stop in from Minnesota. Dean Wenzel was on his way to an auction to look at a Shelby F-150. Very rare and unique vehicle he was going to be looking at bidding on. And he had called and gotten some advice from Russ at one point. And so he was stopping in, and my dad ran into him, and he got a tour of the facility, but he's from Ceylon, Minnesota, and he listens to the show. He was wearing a hoodie. His wife had bought it for him. That was pretty special, and he was driving an F-150, or he wasn't driving it that day, but he's got a 95 F-150 that has 500,000 miles on it, and it is all original. Original motor, original transmission. That was quite you don't hear that. 5.8 liter 351W, pretty awesome. Dean, thanks for stopping in, and thanks for being a hoodie.
All right. That's going to do it for another hour of the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom for Chris Carter, who is, of course, not here today. Under the Hood Show is brought to you in part by Sturdivant's.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is Under the Hood. 866-594-4150. Welcome. Thanks for joining us Under the Hood.
Welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up. We're missing our partner today, Chris Carter. He has gone to the Children's Miracle Network Radiothon that he is smack dab in the middle of. Chris and his team have we talked about it in hour one, but they just do amazing work to raise money. Hundreds of thousands of dollars have been raised for these families and these children that are going through stuff that's tough. And I know for Chris, very emotional time for him because he goes all in. He's got the families, the stories, and they've got success stories and sadly stories that maybe don't end the way the families would like them to, but they're able to comfort them and help them through a tough process. And so with sister station KTWB, they go all in on this radiothon, and this is the time that he does it. So every year, usually you could put this on the calendar that Chris won't be here this week when we do the live recording. So good luck with the radiothon, and as they pour their heart into it, hopefully they can raise just tons of money to help people in their time of need. It's an awesome event.
Well, we're going to go to the phone right now, and we are going to talk with Chris from West Virginia with a 2004 Ford Power Stroke. What's up, Chris?
Hello there. It's cold here.
It's cold here too. When you say cold? What's your cold?
Well, right now I think it's about 32. So
I'd pull up my screen. It'll tell me here if I look at the weather.
I think we're similar right now.
But it's supposed to drop a little bit after we get a ton of. Hey, do you have the snow yet? Because it's coming this way.
We had snow yesterday, and it's already melted.
No,
believe it or not, so.
That's what they're saying here too. But I can't stand it. What's up with the Power Stroke?
Well, I have a 04 6.0, and it's got 145,000 miles on it.
Okay.
And it just started to giving me trouble starting, and then when it does start, it's spewing out diesel through the exhaust. And not only that, it is also burning the coolant.
Ooh.
So I can smell coolant burning. Yeah, I can smell coolant burning through the exhaust as well. And the smoke is coming out as a bluish tinted white smoke.
Oh,
and I was just curious what that could possibly be.
That could be a combination of things. You can get diesel can be white if you've got too much fuel in there and it's unburned, hitting the hot exhaust. You can get black smoke if you don't have enough boost and you've got too much fuel, but you're still compressing it and burning it. The blue smoke is typically oil.
Right. I have been putting the boost in it so that it's not supposed to be smoking. I use that every single time I fill up.
Okay.
Is this engine all completely stock yet, or has like the EGR cooler and some of that stuff been bulletproofed, or have you done any of that work to it?
Nope, it is completely stock.
Okay. Well, that helps because if you were having a coolant mix and all that's been removed, then that eliminates some things. But that EGR cooler is one source of an internal leak that's pretty major on these. Most of the time, people when they hit that mark for sure, 100 over 100,000, a new EGR cooler, the new oil cooler, updated parts for them. There's companies like Bulletproof and several others that make upgraded parts for those that are supposed to last. Well, they call them bulletproof. They'll last forever, but I don't know if there's a forever or anything. But we haven't had one fail a second time after we've replaced it.
Because what'll happen, and like as an example, the oil cooler, they have an external oil cooler that takes the oil outside of the engine block and then lets it cool and then brings it back in. And that cooling port that they've got there also has coolant around it.
Right. And
so if that gets contaminated because of a leak, a crack, a problem, you can start getting that you get that. Usually that's a problem where you'll get a problem with your coolant or your oil. You'll start noticing one and the other. But if you're starting to get it out the tailpipe, that's where the EGR can come into play. And you hate to say it, but that's also where problems with like head gaskets and injector cups around the injectors and things like that can come into play. So Russ, if he brings that into if he is in South Dakota and he brought it to our shop, where would you and Jake start on that?
We'd probably start by checking that EGR cooler to see if there's a failure in that. There's a process to do that, and we'd start with that. But also, we're going to want to check the glow plugs because of the age of it, and the fuel injection control module. Those are all areas of failure when you start to hit about that mileage range. The engines are very strong on the bottom end, but as far as the top end goes, EGR cooler, oil cooler, glow plugs, fuel injection control module, or the FICM they call it, FICM.
Okay.
Does that help you out a
So
little bit?
the oil cooler is generally like the first thing you would look at, though, and would possibly be like.
Well, not for the symptoms you're given, though. I said the oil cooler, but for the symptoms that you're
cooler.
given, the EGR cooler would be first, because the
That's
oil
what I
cooler,
meant.
the oil cooler itself is going to give you contamination that you might see in the oil or antifreeze, and you want to obviously catch that right away. But the EGR is something that could be more involved in the combustion side of things right away, and so that's
Now, if that EGR cooler goes bad, is it shooting it into the valves or something like that?
It'll mix into the exhaust system, that EGR. So that's going into your intake. Your exhaust gases are coming out of the exhaust system and then mixing going into the intake air. Yeah, so you can get coolant right into the intake that way.
Okay. All right. Yep, that gets me started. That's what I wanted to have a starting point to get her start looking at it, and I'm going to go to the easiest to the most expensive.
Yeah, if you get online, though, in the diesel forums and start chatting with people and looking at some of the videos that are out there, very common subject for people to give a lot of information on. You can get information overload on the internet, but yeah, you're definitely going the right direction starting to look there.
Okay. I really appreciate you guys, and I love y'all's show.
Hey, thanks a bunch.
Thank you very much.
Okay. You have a good day.
866-594-4150, 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
All right, we'll be right back in just a second. Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show, 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Let's go to the phones. Talk to John. John in North Dakota with a 2003 Hummer H2. How you doing, John?
Not too bad. How you doing?
Good. We're surviving without Chris. We really wish he was here, but since he's off doing such a honorable thing, we're going to give him a pass this year and next year and
every year after.
To come.
Got the withdrawals going?
That's for sure. What's up with the Hummer?
I got a 2003 Hummer H2 with a 6.0. Checked all main places where water would leak in, anything like that. Every time I turn my inside lights on, I have to literally go out and disconnect the disconnect the power from my battery in order to reset my climate control because it resets. I've replaced the climate control 3 times because it was under warranty from the first time and from a previous water leak that I had fixed from the sunroof, and I still don't know what's going on.
So when you put the other control heads in, did it change anything?
Actually, no. Well, no, it didn't. Every time I dim my lights, or not dim my lights, but turn my interior lights on, you click that switch up and they all come on. It resets the climate control.
If we were working on this,
I've replaced the switch too.
If we were diagnosing this in our own shop, we'd pull the climate control out and start checking the wiring coming into the back of it, the voltage on those to see what they're at. Because when you're doing this, there's no real one solution of how to fix it. So I'm going to start looking to see what happens. I'm going to check the battery voltage, which is the memory and the main power for this unit. I'm going to check that and see if it changes when I turn that dimmer switch on and off. And then I may have to disconnect the battery after I check that first power source because it may have activated something that's going wacky. Then I'm going to go to the ignition switched power source back there and then disconnect the battery after I'm done checking that. And then I'm going to go look at the lighting circuit for that and dimmer. I'm wondering if the dome lights themselves don't have a problem and they're trying to find their path to ground screw the climate control. And if they're trying to find their path to ground through the climate control, it's going to screw up the climate control system. They've got what they call an ignition off draw power, which is going to be that memory power for that unit. And there's lighting, of course, to light the backlights and to dim that blue-green display on it when you turn that dimmer up and down. And then everything else is sensors coming in from temp sensors and going out to control the heat doors and stuff. So I'm guessing to find it, I would assume I'm going to find it in either the power that's constant, the ground, the dimmer circuit, or should be a dimmer and a dash light circuit. You'll have to test both of those and just kind of look at the circuit diagram to see how the current flows through there. But I'm guessing it's probably going to be something on that dimmer circuit. If you were to pull the dimmer circuit pin and the dash light pin out of the back of the control head and then try to adjust your lights, if you don't have any issues with that control circuit or with the heater control, it's something going on in that circuit. And then at that point, you can just check those two circuits, kind of narrow it down a little bit.
Okay, yeah, that sounds really good because I'm pulling no codes at all.
Well, and in a situation like that, that's where the codes are probably not going to come into play at all because you got a problem in the base electrical system of the vehicle, and there is no smarts to that. It's good old-fashioned wiring, even though some of it has went to low-voltage circuits and different things. That 03 Hummer is still got a pretty conventional wiring system in it. When they got into like the 06s and 07s in the equivalent vehicles, I guess I'd call an equivalent vehicle a Suburban or something like that. I mean, the Hummer's a lot different, but they shared a lot of architecture with Tahoe, Suburbans, those sort of things. 3/4-ton trucks. There was a lot of shared architecture when they made that vehicle. And so you're not going to get any codes most likely with the problem you're experiencing.
Okay.
Does what Russ told you make a little bit of sense? Because it sure sounds like it's heading that direction.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Well, thanks for listening to the show. So we got to ask, these Hummer H2s, you don't see many of them around anymore. Is this thing all original, or has it been jacked up in big wheels, or what's the story with your Hummer?
It's all original. The only thing that's been done to it is the airbags have been pulled out, springs have been put under the rear end of it.
Good idea.
Other than that, it's all original. 130,000 miles, 7 to 10 miles to the gallon. Great truck.
They've gotten to be quite collectible. It's not collectible, but the values aren't going down on them. That's for sure. What?
Yeah, I got lucky. No rust. One owner.
All right. So Russ, don't tell us here. I'm guessing that this one is. Well, he probably doesn't own a yellow one. Silver.
It's maroon.
I think it's maroon.
You should have stuck with your gut. It was yellow. It's yellow. Yellow with flames outside.
Oh, that's okay.
Cool.
The flames make it work. See, I'm a yellow fan, but some people are like,
I don't like the flames. I don't like the flames. They were on it when I got it.
Oh, that's good. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in and being a hoodie.
All right, take care.
Yep. Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate y'all's show. You've been a big help.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
You too. All right, we got another call here coming up. Let's go to Joe with a 97 Honda Civic. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Just recently, there was a couple weeks when I go out in the garage and start my car, I noticed some weakness in my battery.
Sure.
And then it got progressively worse, where I had to have it jump started a couple of times. And the last time was I was out in the country by myself, happened to be on a little incline, and the battery completely failed. I don't remember just how old this battery was, but I was on an incline, and I got a 5-speed in there, so I was able to
he bump started
get it rolling and started.
Oh, I love it.
And,
I mean, you don't hear people bump starting a car much anymore.
No, you don't. Anyway, I drove into town, and I got a new battery. And about 5 days later, that went completely dead. So when I had a jump start and I drove home, I put my voltage meter on, and I'm only I'm getting about 12.5 volts going into the battery from the old day.
Yeah, it should be a little higher.
Yeah. They kept telling me it should be 13 up to maybe even 14.
Yeah.
Anyway, I pulled the alternator out and I took it down to a parts store.
Sure.
And they were a little high priced, I thought. And I was only a couple blocks away from another electrical auto shop that deals or refurbishes alternators and starters. And I gave it to them, and they looked it all over, put it on their machine, took it apart, put it back on their machine. They couldn't find anything wrong with it. He said the only thing that it could possibly be is maybe the belt is slipping. He said he recommended that I get a belt. So I thought, I went to O'Reilly's, got a belt, and the lady up there said, well, I can test your alternator for you. So I thought, well, I'll have her test it too. She came back a while later and said she kept running it several times, and it checked out just perfect. So I goes home, put it back on, and started it up, 12.5 volts going back into it. I talked to a friend of mine who's a pretty good mechanic, and in the meantime, I went back down and picked up the other refurbished one at the auto store.
Sure.
Put it on, and anyway, it did work. As soon as I started it up, there was 13 up to 14 volts going into the battery. And anyway, I talked to a friend who's a pretty good mechanic, and he said that that's probably they didn't test the regulator.
Yeah.
Have you ever run across anything like that?
Well, there's a separate part in there called an ALD, which is in your fuse box under the hood there, and that controls the charging. It measures what the voltage and amperage is coming through there, and it tells it charge or not charge. Those fail a lot. So I'm almost betting money that that's what's going on. If they tested it and it was working fine, you took it in and out a couple times, just disconnecting the battery and hooking it back up can make that unit work again. So if you start having this issue again and your voltage starts dropping, I would look into replacing that, which is inside of that fuse box. But if you're looking one up online, it's called an ALD.
ALD, yeah. Okay.
And I guess also we want to make sure, too, I mean, of course, his voltage was a little bit low. So over time, you could drain that battery, but it'll
kill it if it's drained enough and enough times.
Exactly. So, but after you got that working now, you haven't had any problems since then?
Not at all.
Okay,
no,
good.
I put in the remanufactured one, and it's working just fine.
And your battery's holding charge and everything's working good. That's awesome.
Yep. Working good, yeah.
Well, thanks for being a hoodie, and thanks for the call.
You bet. Bye.
When you run a battery dead enough times, it takes out, if it's completely dead, it'll kill the reserve capacity, and then you've got to replace the battery. But a lot of times, if it's just undercharging and it's getting a little low, you can go ahead and just charge it up and you're fine. But it's always good to test a battery like that. But don't wait. Like with Joe's car, he was driving this thing, it was getting a little less every day. If there's a consistent pattern of a car cranking slower and slower every day, it'd be kind of foolish to think that it's not going to eventually just stop completely and give up. Something's going on with it for sure. Hey, back to that Z06 we were talking about a little bit with the flat plane crank in it. I was reading that, and it's showing 8,600 RPM out of that engine. That's fast, folks. So if you're, your typical car, if you're not really thinking about familiar with RPM, red line on a lot of cars is 5, maybe 6,000 if you're really pushing, but 8,600, that thing is going to sing like a Indy 500 car or NASCAR.
Yeah, it's going to have a different engine note. It's going to have an engine note that's more familiar with high-end European cars, your Ferraris and different cars, because that's the type of engineering that's involved with that compared to that counterweight crankshaft they've had for years. And the cylinder firing is set up differently and everything on the way they do that, and so they can just crank the RPMs out of that. So it's going to be a different experience for people that have been conventional Corvette owners. It's going to be that RPM power band, more like when I used to ride my two-stroke motorcycles and ATVs, but it's going to be kind of crazy what that's going to be like.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to listen to one of those in person. We'll be right back in just a second. Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I am Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom in studio, 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. And before we go back to the phones, we got to wish a happy birthday to our good friend Daryl Meyer today. There you go, Daryl. National radio. You've been, what did they say? You've been called out.
I just took a selfie as we were coming back from break and just sent him a text right as you said that.
There
Happy
you go.
birthday, Daryl.
He's probably listening right now, but if he's not, somebody'll mention it to him. He actually is one of the owners of Audio Playground in our home market of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and that is where I've worked with Daryl for many years. I've known him for almost 30 years, but we get a lot of our knowledge about car electronics and things from Daryl there, and they do, of course, remote start installations and stuff like that.
Done a lot of work for our company, putting backup cameras in delivery vehicles and different things, so a good friend of ours.
A lot of stuff. Let's go to the phones and talk to Beeper with a 2006 Pontiac. What's up with the Pontiac? Beeper,
hear me there?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up with the Pontiac?
It's a long story, but I think I know what's wrong, but I want to see what your opinion is.
Okay.
It's my daughter's car, and I think the heater core is leaking. I think when she puts it to heat, she can smell antifreeze, and there's a slow leak, so she's got to add every once in a while antifreeze. And then it's kind of weird in the summertime when she runs your air conditioning. I've driven it too, and there's almost like fumes coming out the vents,
Oh.
Yeah.
And but then also the air conditioner works great, for a while. You'll be driving down the highway, and it freezes up, it's not cool anymore. So then it doesn't really come back right away. So if you shut it off, like you thaw it out, I guess, that works for me. Turn it back on, then it works cool for a while. And I'm just wondering and then when you turn a corner, you can hear liquid sloshing up front, but it doesn't leak on the floor. It doesn't leak, anywhere else. So what's your opinion on that, I guess?
My curiosity has the best of me. A little more information. What kind of Pontiac, 06 Pontiac is it?
Torrent.
Okay. All right. So it's the Torrent, so like the Equinox type vehicle.
That answers a big question right there.
And it's
I
a
have an 05 Equinox.
3.4 liter motor?
Yes.
So the Torrents had some big issues with that whole heater box up there, but also leaking heater cores. We've replaced a large number of them in those vehicles, and they're pretty expensive. I mean, you're going to go in a shop, it's going to run you over $1,000.
Oh, he doesn't want to hear that, Russ?
No. So.
Oh, I know that. I know that because I went on YouTube. It's like doing surgery.
Would it be worth a shot to try some K-Seal in there or not?
That's what I would suggest. If it's got enough miles on it and you're trying to save a little money and to give yourself a good diagnosis, put a bottle of K-Seal in it, drive it. That problem goes away. You can definitely guarantee you've got a leak in the heater core and you know what you've got to fix and you can fix it later. Sometimes, K-Seal will stop a lot of leaks, but if there's more continuing rust going on and things actually physically getting ready to blow apart in that heater core, it'll continue to stop leaks as you go, but it'll get to a point where the heater core, once it comes apart, there's no fixing to it. But we typically see it leaking down the seam on the side of that thing.
Yeah, K-Seal is the one that we've learned it will give you the best opportunity to stop a fairly significant crack or leak in a part. But it can't do all of them. It's not gonna plug something that's the size of the end of your finger by any means, but it can take care of most of them, and we've had good success with it. So I think knowing the value of the vehicle and knowing what the cost of repair is going to be and or the time and aggravation to do it if you got to do it yourself, the K-Seal is a good option before you embark on that mission.
Yeah, this car's had a little bit of history. The fans up front died on it, kind of melted. I had to end up getting a new fan in it, so it was overheating and stuff, and it was kind of scary. My daughter called me from the cities. Oh, the light's red, and I'm in wall-to-wall traffic. What do I do? Get off the road and cool it down, shut it off.
Have you done anything to the motor since that event?
We put head gaskets in it. That wasn't cheap either.
No.
And my Equinox is the same way. I ended up having a head gasket too. So
yeah,
that's an 05.
Yeah, there's a lot of history. Now, there again, we're talking about an engine that's many, many years old, but that in their prime,
Correct.
We did a fair amount of head gaskets and intake gaskets on those vehicles. And so if you've done that already and the heads were flat and they didn't have any cylinder scoring, how many miles you got on it?
It's like 170 something, I think.
I mean, we see them run a long, long time if they've been able. If you didn't get antifreeze intrusion into the oil, and things were flat when they took it apart and they didn't warp or they got them planed, and the cylinders didn't look scored, you're going to get some good miles out of that. But try the K-Seal, give that a shot, and see if that can help you with that heater core issue because you're definitely on the right track. It sounds like.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
You bet. Thanks for the call. We got another hoodie to give away. Daryl Lee from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Congratulations from all of us here under the hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute. If you're thinking about a Christmas gift for somebody, well, tell them to get out there and get trained so they can get a job as an automotive technician. Maybe you know somebody who is really good at what they do and they love working on cars, but they need just a little more training to get out there and take that professional job where they can get a career with good money and really learn something. Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu, they're the place for you to go to get trained.
When you suggested a Christmas present, I thought you were going to tell them to go to our website and buy them a hoodie.
You could do that as well. Right now is hoodie seasons. If you want them for Christmas, I'd go there right
Order
now.
them now. We should be able to get them going to you. The shop that works with us said he's got inventory on hand, and they're shipping right away. We try to have pre-printed and ready to go, the right sizes. So
if you don't get it in time, it's the shippers. But it's that way with everybody with shipping. It's just the trucks to get them to you.
Expect the unexpected.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go to the phones here, and we're going to talk to Gary with a 2016 Dodge truck. How you doing, Gary?
Well, I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
What's up with the Dodge?
This truck, well, it was acquired in Kerrville, Texas with 4,000 miles on it.
Oh, yeah.
Should know better than to buy a car that was traded back in after only 4,000 miles. A vehicle
well, not always, but it's something to worry about, think about.
Yeah, right. Well, I just picked one problem of many to address, and that's that heater core problem. It leaks enough to smell the antifreeze, but I don't hear any sloshing or anything. It's just I can smell the antifreeze, and I have put in K-Seal, but the only place I could put it was in the overflow tub.
Sure.
Because there doesn't seem to be a radiator cap on this outfit.
Yeah, they call that a surge tank or a pressure tank, but they don't, not like the old ones where they had a recovery tank where the radiator cap would allow pressure to go by, it would fill the tank, and then it would pull it back in when it had a certain amount of vacuum suction created on it. That tank is actually part of the system. They put it up there high so that it keeps the air out of the system and keeps everything full. That's where it goes. That's where the K-Seal goes on that model.
Is that, I'm just going to jump back a little bit here. Is this a gas or a diesel or what? Tell me about what you bought. What kind of Dodge truck did you buy?
It's a 6.4 liter gas engine. It's 2,500 model Ram.
And did you get to find out any history on the truck of why it was, you just recently purchased it with 4,000 miles?
Well, I got it back in 2016 with 4,000 miles on it. Down in Kerrville, Texas.
Okay, and were you able to do like a Carfax type of thing to see if it was a one owner traded back in, or if something had happened with multiple owners, or what? Did you find out the story?
I just heard from the dealer's version of that story that they wanted something different, and I've had lots of problems with it. The integrated trailer brake doesn't work, near as I can tell, and it kind of reefs and jumps on turns, so the front end is I improved that a little bit with a new axle U-joint. But anyway, back to the radiator. This thing puts out very little heat. Maybe it's enough for Kerrville, Texas, but it's not enough for the Black Hills. And I thought maybe this leak had something to do with it. But I'm also wondering if there's some kind of a door in the heater that keeps the airflow from getting into the cab, because it's running almost half on the temperature gauge, and still you got to bundle up to ride around in it around here.
Yeah, I would try a couple things. It could have a blend door issue in that heater core area in the HVAC box, and it's not closing and opening like it should, moving back and forth. But it could also have a heater core that's starting to get restricted. You could try to flush that out by taking the two heater hoses off it when the engine's cool and just wash that thing out back and forth with a garden hose. We actually have an air-powered tool that pulses air through it as well to knock off anything that might be in there. And when we see a change, if it's got better heat but still not great, we know it needs a heater core. But in a lot of cases, it completely cleans it out and it's good to go. So you might find a shop that has that power flush tool for the heater core, not the engine, but the actual heater core, and see if you can.
Well, Russ, as you say that, it makes me ask a question. You said you added the K-seal because you could smell it, or because you physically knew you were adding coolant and had a leak?
I could smell the antifreeze in the cab, so I put K-seal in this tub, but I'm wondering if there's a propitious time to put it in there.
No.
So that it doesn't matter when you stick it in the cycle, huh?
Correct. Anytime.
Doesn't matter whether the car's hot or.
It's made to stop current leaks and future leaks, so it doesn't matter when you put it in hot, or well, you don't want to put it in hot; it'll blow the cap off. But cold, a little warm, you're fine as long as it's not too hot and building pressure, so you can't take the cap off.
If you had, had you had to add coolant to it before that or not?
I do from time to time. Yeah, it gets low, and lately I actually haven't smelled this, but that might. I'm not sure just why it's still. It doesn't put out heat for sure, and I wasn't aware that the old system of sucking it in as it cooled was not the case, and so I thought maybe it made a difference whether you put it in when the engine was hot or when it was cool or when it was about to suck and not.
No, it'll flow through there at all times. So just put it in there when the engine's cool, and make sure you shake that bottle up really good when you put it in.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll give that another try and see if that works. And if I do have to take the heater core out, does that come out from the firewall side?
No, you got to take the whole dash.
The firewall,
whole dash has to come out to do it.
You don't want to do that operation unless you absolutely have to. So if you do get ready where you have to do it, you get if somebody's got access to, if you can get online and just watch a video of somebody doing it, it's a big project. It does seem fairly young in that vehicle's life. How many miles are on it now?
There's 92,005 now.
Okay, so you've used it for a while and had it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. I mean, I was getting the impression that maybe this was a pretty young purchase for you, but that heater core it's not common for them to be replaced in those models that we've seen, but you're getting up there enough that it could happen. And a good coolant flush is going to be important too, to get good fresh coolant with new chemical package in it if you do replace that core.
Okay. A new thermostat for this, the cheapest I found is $160 because you have to buy the whole housing.
Right, they're not real cheap, but that's about what they go for on those. But it's a good idea to change it when you're flushing that coolant. All right, Gary.
Okay, thank you for all the info.
Thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
That just brought me back a long time ago when I was in high school. I had a friend named Lewis Kerr who was from Kerrville. How about that?
There you go.
All right, we'll be back in just a second.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show, 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show, and we are going to go right to the phones, and we are going to talk to Bruce with the 2005 Ford Escape. How you doing, Bruce?
Well, good morning. I called you a couple of weeks ago about first I thought it might have been the alternator, but you kind of led me to the computer.
Yes.
And so I went to this place called Nordstrom's, got a computer, just exactly the right one, same model, same make, everything. Did all the videos. And the video apparently shows me when you put in the new computer, you turn the key to the on position for 3 seconds, turn it back, and it should program. But when I do it, nothing happens.
Yeah,
Is there something else I need to do?
that won't work.
Okay.
You've actually got to
Is that
use
some
it.
new computer?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so you've got to program it with the Ford software that comes right from Ford Motor Company, and with a laptop you can do it. If you have the interface tool, there's ones available online. You're probably not going to do it because it's of the cost in it, but people can buy these things, plug them in, program them. You're going to relearn the keys. You're going to add the keys to that new computer. It's the security that's not allowing you to start the vehicle. And most shops, they're probably going to be in that like $120 range or so to program a replacement computer in there. You could go in with your old computer installed, then swap it out, or they could swap it out for you and leave it loose, whatever, and then relearn that for you. But yeah, it's got to be done online. There are vehicles such as a lot of the Chevys that you can turn the key to the start position and let go of the key, let it sit until the security light stops flashing, shut it off 30 seconds, and then repeat that procedure 2 more times, and then the third time it'll start and run. But with the Ford, trying to put a used one in, no, that's not going to work. You've got to go into gain access to the security module. And wish I had better news for you.
No, that's pretty much what I expected. That's not the worst thing in the world. I've spent way more money on cars before. Thanks for your help. You guys have a Merry Christmas.
You too. Merry Christmas. Oh man, speaking of Christmas, there's I'm trying to think what the best gift is. Of course, hoodies, that would be self-serving.
Yeah, but that's okay. We can be self-serving every once in a while.
Well, we sell them at cost. So what's our catch? So we can get people out there wearing our name, and other people can know about the show, and also to keep you warm. We like that. But there's other things. I've been looking at. How about an in-dash camera for your car? And I'm not going to tell you where to buy one. Just check them out. There's a lot of different ones.
The prices have really came down on them, and the technology has really went up.
Yeah, they're really cool. They've even got some that are Bluetooth, and so they report to your phone or Wi-Fi. They go right to a computer, and you can watch the car drive down the road. Who knows? Maybe you want a tracking device. I don't know. I was reading a story about that. You were telling me about.
We just added a couple of dash cams to some vehicles at our place because it's just kind of the world we live in. It's nice to have that extra information. I know there's an accident recently where, in our market, just being very general, that one thing was said that had happened. I know, Russ, you've had an experience personally with this.
Yeah, and they both lied.
Yeah, and the person's story was not even close to true when they found a video camera from a nearby business that had captured the whole thing at the intersection.
Yeah, it's always good to have to protect yourself, and if you're at fault, throw it away. No,
no.
But yeah, it's always good to have. I mean, in the case of a collision I had a while ago, I said no, I'm not at fault. Where
you
I'm
were sitting in
I was parked basically,
back away from the stoplight because you're a little freaky,
and both of them said that I was in the intersection, and I wasn't, and it turned out in the end that one guy driving was actually on his phone, and he was right there. I got a close up look, and the officer could see him on his phone looking up as he went,
and the red light was in the background that he was going through.
Yeah, my light was green for several seconds before he even entered the intersection.
He was running through a red light.
So you can save yourself. A short amount of money can save you a lot of money. Let's go talk to John in Minnesota about his 2002 Ford Sport Track. What's up, John?
Yes, this is John.
What's going on with your Sport Track?
Well, I have a heater problem.
Okay.
I can be driving along, working fine, and all of a sudden it'll just quit blowing out of any of the vents or anything. The fan keeps running, but there's no heat or air coming out of any of the vents.
It's not fun this time of year in the northern plains if you're from that area.
No.
So
No, it's not.
But you can hear it running, blowing.
Yeah, the fan runs fine. And actually, my son-in-law, we looked at it a week or so ago, and I've talked to a couple other people, and they're kind of leaning toward that actuating door.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you've got going on. You've got either a door that's breaking, the teeth are getting stripped on it, and it's moving out of position and blocking airflow. It's directing it kind of, you probably feel it just very gently going out kind of everywhere, but not actually blowing anywhere like it should. Either that door is bad or the actuator itself. The actuators fail a lot on those vehicles.
Let's hope it's the actuator and not the internal doors.
Yeah, and the actuators are pretty cheap.
Not bad to
Yeah,
replace.
actually, that's what we decided to do. I got one ordered. It ranged from $27 to like about $100.
Yeah,
We're gonna
Dorman
go with the
sells those. DormanProducts.com, our partner, they're pretty affordable.
And they make a good product. But that we would hope that's what it is, because if it is something broken inside, then that gets a little more dicey. Now there's some people online that we've seen make some fixes for some of those things that are a little more old school, but otherwise you do get into having to replace pieces if that's what it is. If you switch the control to like defrost or something at that time, can you move the airflow, or is it just kind of keeping its I don't want to work position?
It keeps where I don't want to work position. And actually, there's a couple times where I have stopped, and if I work the heat control, the hot and cold, it will start working again.
Makes me a little nervous that you could have something stripped in there and you're just messing with it enough that it finally catches, like any sort of a sprocket that is wearing out. There's always a spot where it'll still grab every once in a while, but just to double check, you're not having any problems with the heat, temperature, coolant, nothing like that, right?
No.
Okay, yeah. No, sure sounds like it's an HVAC issue under the dash, completely. And so you're on.
Because it doesn't make any noise, when you turn the heat or the control, so it's not like it's stripped out.
It's not ratcheting.
No.
Yeah, I would. I'd go with that first, because that's going to be your cheapest replacement, anyways. Cheapest repair for that. Thanks, John.
How that goes.
Take care. Have a Merry Christmas.
Yep, you too. Bye.
Oh boy. Well, looks like that's going to do it for another hour of Under the Hood. I'm Russ Evans, along with Shannon Nordstrom, for the missing Chris Carter this week. We'll see you next week, buddy. Take care. Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants. Whew.
We did it.
Yeah, let's turn that music down. There we go.
We did it without Chris. That's a job, especially for you.
It's tough. So you gotta you're answering the calls, but Doug answers the call.
Doug answers
Producer
the
Doug.
calls. Yeah, he's coming in here now to say hi.
Turn the camera around.
Yeah. We're hey, turn around and say hi to the camera. We're still on the stream here. Now he's in front of mine.
Producer Doug could sit in the chair over here if he wants.
We might as well get in Russ's chair. Because
So
you never
people
get
can-
behind the camera here. You got your
people
shirt
wonder-
on.
You've been here with the show for like 55 and a half years, right? Let me try to turn a microphone on for you there so people can see your lovely face.
Yeah, and so Russ is running everything over there while Doug's queuing up the calls and occasionally giving us typed reminders on our call screen board of things that we need to make sure we do, like getting in a sponsor mention or giving away the hoodies for UTI and all that stuff.
Trying to just keep track of things, And but you guys did a great job. Who needs Chris? No, just kidding.
We all need Chris.
We all need Chris. Don't even go there. We need Chris.
I totally get that.
Yeah,
he needs to tell us to get off our phones and get back to.
He's like our mother when he's here.
But I had to put mine away for sure because it's not easy to focus. We did. So we're doing this a lot. You're wondering what the break is. Everybody says, well, why? What the breaks are awkward. Well, for now, I'm trying to figure out what to fill those breaks with because you're wondering why. Well, why do we just sit here on live on a live YouTube stream and do nothing for, a couple minutes? Well, that's because we are taking a break on a live commercial radio show. That's why we're doing that. But we are gonna after the first of the year here, we're gonna figure out something to fill that break as well, because we don't want to bomb you with a bunch of commercials there. We want to put something cool in there, like us setting off airbags or setting a car on fire, or something something you'll find interesting, running into a wall with a Monte Carlo. I don't know.
We have one of them we could do that with, we decided.
We do. We're trying to figure out what to do with our old radio
that's
show.
Really rusting away. When I drive by and look, it's amazing how that's rusting away.
Well, that's why I stopped driving it, because the frame underneath is broken, so I didn't license it or insure it this year.
Is the frame broke where the car was put together, or
no, it's rusted away where the rear control arm goes underneath. It's getting really soft, and you can twist it, and I was afraid it's going to come off. But we thought about, Chris and I were thinking, well, what if we put some GoPro cameras in it and put a helmet on, and we drove it into the wall and set the airbags off so people could see how that works, or did that, or put it in our burnout pit and chained it down and set the cruise control at 80 miles an hour and just let it sit there and run and see how long it would go until the tires blew up, and then let it keep going until the engine explodes and it burns the car up. Something cool like that. I don't know. There's got to be something. You folks, you tell us, email us, whatever, what you think. Put your comments on YouTube of what you want us to do with the old car.
Yeah, and if you're on YouTube watching us during the show, we're trying to grow this channel, so give us a thumbs up, of course, and subscribe. We could use the subscribers. And
did you see they took the dislike button off?
Good.
The like and I don't like. So now you can see people's likes, but you can't tell if there's any unlikes, which is great, because if you don't like them, but I can see them. You can see them on our end. So I think that's to tell the people creating the content, is it good or not? But I don't know.
Well, we're going to have some breaks coming up here. We're going to be doing producer Doug will be putting together some best of shows when we get to Christmas and New Year's. We've got 3 of them, 2 of them.
2,
at least 2 that I know of.
Yeah, Christmas and New Year's. But we'll have. There's quite a bit of new stuff in there too, because there's a lot of stuff we take like now when we're off of the regular podcast and off of the regular air, and we're on Facebook and YouTube, and we're doing this stuff, and we'll put those in there. Well, I say will like it's easy. He'll do it. Actually, it's got some interesting stuff that I listened to those and I forgot, because we've done this show since 1990, and we've got a lot of content that we pull calls, and it's kind of interesting sometimes. So if you hear a call and it's about let's say a 1997
Achieva.
Chevy, Achieva or Illumina. And they say, yeah, I've had this car. It's a couple years old. And you go, wait a second, let me do the math. It's a 97. This is 99. Listen to that call. Take note of it and see what has changed between then and now. When somebody says, I'm really bummed out because this thing only gets, 21 miles to the gallon, and, gas is up to a $1.60 a gallon now. It's driving me crazy.
You give away a couple hoodies today. How do people sign up how do they get in that drawing?
Well, you can go to our...
Good reminder, Doug.
Yeah, we have a hoodie fan club on underthehoodshow.com. Make sure you join that, because that's how I get your contact information, your name and address and your size. Don't forget to put your size. You don't put your size, I got to get a hold of you and find out what size you are, because I'm not going to guess. I tried that once and I get in trouble. Anyways, you join that, but then subscribe to us on YouTube. I don't care. Maybe I don't care if you're watching or what. Subscribe. You don't have to turn the notifications on. That's
we'll take
all
a
right.
non-watching subscriber.
Yeah. No, they're going to watch.
Okay. All right.
You can
all right.
watch, but you don't have to. You don't have to turn your notifications on, because some people don't like to be bothered with the notification. The show's on again. I know. I'm watching it. I don't. I don't think I subscribe to a bunch of stuff, but I don't think I have notifications turned on for any of them, because I want to go there on my time and watch it. I don't want to see when they're live, when I'm doing other stuff. I'm busy. But I do subscribe so I can remember I'm bookmarking that channel. It's helping those people out. So YouTube says, hey, they've got a lot of people subscribed. It's interesting. Let's show it to other people and get help for more people. Then you can hear other people's stories about their trouble with their cars. There's a lot of broken stuff out there.
Well, and that's all. It's always good just to say hello and thanks for watching us, and we'll keep cranking out the content, and as the new year rolls around, we'll see what kind of new things we can add to the show, and just try to keep it interesting.
We were talking about Christmas gifts. Car guy, car girl, Christmas gifts. What I mentioned cameras, dash cams and stuff like that, and why we'd want those. But what if you were just giving gifts, Shannon? What would you give? Now, not the hoodies. We have the hoodies,
you know, one that I actually have purchased to give to someone, because I always have people just freak out just a little bit if they help me get something out of the back of my pickup. I've got a bed pull-out hook that I got from Access.
Really?
And Access makes bed covers and stuff like that, and it's an adjustable rod with a hook on the end of it, just a 90-degree hook. And so I've got a bed cover on there. If something slides to the front of my bed, I can just use the hook and pull it out without having to crawl up in the bed. And it's adjustable, whether it's a short box or a long box, and it is the simplest thing. And I just leave it set off to the side in my pickup bed. And everybody that is ever near my pickup bed, where'd you get this? I want one of those.
Give them the hook, like the old Bugs Bunny, the cartoon. It's like, all right, give them the hook.
For the longest time, I had an old broom handle that had a round screw-in hook on the end of it. I just found laying in the back of a truck out here, and I just threw it in there because I would use it to pull stuff forward. But that could get a little brutal if the item was a little sensitive. So this is a nice rubber-coated 90-degree hook, and you just pull things out and get them close to you so you don't have to jump up in the bed. So there's an idea.
You got any thoughts,
less
Doug?
than $50 too.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
You got any thoughts for Christmas gifts?
One of the best gifts that I've done for my family and you guys have done for me is the remote start on the vehicle. That has really helped me out. I mean, gas prices are ugly right now, but
cold is worse.
When you have a frosted windshield and your scraper is broken, or you just don't want to stand out for 15 minutes in the snowstorm trying to clean off your windshield, that remote start is a wonderful thing to have.
And I know we learned too that, make sure it's a quality brand, because remote start that's either improperly installed or maybe not great quality can be a real bugger for a problem with the vehicle if it doesn't get done right.
That's for sure.
So investing in a little bit higher dollar remote start and professional installation by somebody that can tell you that they've done hundreds, if not thousands of them, is worth its weight in gold.
That's for sure. The other thing I can think of is like a battery jump pack, like the Rugged Geek, that hook them up, they're charged, you just keep them in your car. You can get them, a lot of those companies, you can get a remote text message sent to you when it's time to recharge it.
Well,
so you say,
that's something I didn't know they had.
Yeah, so I get a notice comes up, I think it's every 90 days, and it says, reminder, charge your Rugged Geek. That way you know to charge it. Mine has always said fully charged, but I plug it in for a few minutes anyways until the green light comes on, and I throw it back in the trunk of the car.
That's a reminder. I got to get mine out from behind my seat of my pickup and
you don't want it to be dead if you haven't charged it in 9 months or a year or 2 years.
I know we were at Casting Crowns came to Sioux Falls, and they did a outdoor concert. Well, most concerts are outdoor, but a drive-in outdoor concert as the pandemic was kind of changing, and they wanted to get out there and do something, and people were looking to do something, so they had a drive-in concert. And the people that were near us, they had a van, and the kids kept jumping in and out of the van. The power sliding doors were running back and forth, and all of a sudden I could look over there and I could just see their interior lights were turning amber, orange, and they were getting ready to fire the vehicle up to go. And it was a Toyota Sienna or a Honda Odyssey, one of them two, and it was click, click, click. I'm like, oh, I know what that is. And so they were bumming. They were kind of in the middle of the pack, and we had pulled our lawn chairs off to a little grass area just by ourselves off to the side. And so I just quietly walked to my truck, and I got my little Rugged Geek that's about the size of a Bible, and or small Bible.
I'm going to pray for your car.
And I just walked over, and I said, hey, looks like you're having a problem. Can I help you? And they almost chuckled when I had this little device in my hand. They're like, I said, no, this will work. And I hadn't charged that for a year. I'd forgot it was in there even. It just made me think of it when they're having the problem. So
it would have been funnier if it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, but
I hadn't charged it. No, really.
But we hooked it up and fired up, and they just couldn't believe it, that I just had this little thing in my hand, and It was great. It was well used.
I've used them so much to charge I've more than starting my cars. I've used them to start my cell phone, charge my cell phone.
That's
up.
a big deal if you're stranded somewhere too, in a winter weather event in our northern climate here.
But I have to say, I do have a new, the new iPhone 13 Pro Max, and I got that so we could do more videos for the show and stuff. And I went with that from an XR, the 10 or whatever they want to call it, XR. That XR, since day one, I was charging every night. It'd be almost dead, like 20% to 5%, no matter if I'd been on it all. Now, every 3 days, I charge that thing.
Really?
Yes, it's insane.
That's impressive.
Insane.
And who thinks they won't improve car battery range?
Yeah, and that was my whole point of that conversation right there, is that the battery technology is getting better and better. And if you want to know why electric cars are, the range is getting better, it's pretty much because of the cell phones, because we all want everything with batteries. If there had never been a cell phone revolution, we probably would not be looking at anything electrified in the car way right now, because the battery technology is just, it wasn't there. And they're saying better and better. I like to watch the shows that say future tech. There's a lot of future tech on YouTube and TV and Discovery and stuff like that. And it says, based on where we're at now, where we're going, and technology that we have, but we just haven't perfected yet, they're anticipating things like cell phones, 30-day cell phones. Charge them once every 30 days for 10 minutes, and they'll just keep going.
My kids would still be low somehow.
Oh, yeah. People don't change their oil on time. Why would they charge their cell phone, right? But anyways. Well, everybody, take care, and we'll see you again next week. Same Under the Hood time, same Under the Hood channel. That's for producer Doug. Anyways. All right, everybody, take care.